Hi, I'm Chino. What's up, man?
Thomas, nice to meet you, man. Thanks for stopping by.
No problem. Well, I just want to say, why do you think we all should be vegan? Question
Yeah, perfect question. That's what we're here today for. The reason I think that we should all be vegan is because we are privileged enough to live in a point in history where we have alternatives to stabbing innocent, defenseless animals in the throat, to confining them in slaughterhouses, to just seeing them as mere commodities. With science, we know that they feel pain. They have families. They're very complex beings. They feel emotions, and when we have alternatives, I feel like it's the morally right thing to do. Animals don't have a voice, and they're totally being exploited. They go through a lot of suffering, and ultimately they experience a violent death. And yeah, I just think it's unjustifiable when you have an alternative. If you can choose to hurt someone, or you can choose not to hurt someone, and yeah, why wouldn't you? So that's what I think. What do you think about that?
Well, one thing I'd have to say is about money. Why would you try to go vegan when you can go to McDonald's and get $1 menu of something, something that's way cheaper, something that's valuable, like something that people can, like, I can go to McDonald's, spend £1, and how much would I spend for vegan food? Like, it's pretty expensive. Like, I have friends that are vegan, I have no problem with vegans, but then again, there's people that are homeless, that don't have food. And how can we lower the food prices for them to have food, actually? Like, I take time out of my day to, like, give food to homeless people. I've done it when I was in Miami. I've done it when I'm here, because sometimes it's good to give. It's good to give, but, like, then again, like, how can this benefit them?
So let me address, first of all, just before we set up, there was a homeless guy around the corner, and I'd actually gave him some food. We're not against compassion towards human beings. I gave him some naked bars. They're vegan. But on the point of McDonald's and it being cheap, they're like, I don't know, they might even be $1 trillion business. They're one of the most instantly recognizable corporations on the planet. So, but to expand on that alone, it's ethics. You could buy something cheap, and just because something is cheap, does it justify the suffering? But also, the cheapest foods in the world are actually vegan, like rice, lentils, potatoes, grains, beans. You can get like tins of beans for like 50p in the supermarket, and it just takes a bit of research, learning some new recipes. And your second point was other issues in society. So veganism is like a passive action, and also like buying animal products, it doesn't actually do anything to like help those other social issues. So it's not so much like it has to be one or the other. You can be vegan and care about other issues of injustice. It doesn't have to be one or the other. So that's what I would say to that. I just think it always comes back to the morality. What do you think?
Man, I think honestly, like, you're bringing up good points, and I don't like I said, I don't have a problem with veganism. It's more of like, people aren't aware and people aren't educated on it enough, so where people just like, they just put themselves out there and just say, look, meat, cows, chicken. But if you go to McDonald's, you're not even eating chicken or beef. You're eating like 98% something else that's like not even like similar to it. So like
Frankenstein flesh.
Exactly. See, back home they did. I watched the movie. It's Food Inc. Maybe. Yeah. It's a very good.
Check out Food Inc.
Check it out.
It's on Netflix, right?
Yeah, I think it is on Netflix.
One sec, we'll let these people pass. All good. Yeah. So Food Inc.
Yeah, like I think it brings people like, wow, we're really eating and making animals suffer like that. Like, it brings eye to people, like it wakes them up a bit. But like, I wish I was educated more on it when I was younger, instead of finding out later, like, I'm already used to eating beef, chicken, like that's like in Mexico, that's what we eat. It's beef, chicken, like whatever, like meat. We eat meat. So like, there's never a time where I could just say like, I'm just gonna stop and be vegan,
How come?
You see, my family, we love meat. We love, like...
I loved meat too when I used to eat it. I just thought that I don't love it that much that I want someone to suffer and die for it.
But like it's it's hard to say that too though. Like I've come so accustomed to it that like I can change my life on it.
What age are you?
I'm 21.
Okay, I'm 26 and I ate meat and all the rest of the animal products for like 23 years. So I've been like 2 decades strong and a bit of that cultural conditioning, and like from day one you're born, that way of life is forced upon you and you don't have a say. You know, it's predetermined because of the society that we live in, but you can grow up and you seem like a socially like aware dude and you know a bit about the animal industry and you've seen Food Inc. I would just implore you to think like, do I have to just carry on in a fashion that was already mapped out for me and I never actually consciously decided? Someone like that was passed on, and you have to go really far back in the family tree to see where that started. And you know, it comes from like times of cavemen where we used to do it for survival, but we're not in a survival situation anymore. We're in the 21st century and we don't need to eat like cavemen. And I think, culture, do you think culture justifies like animal cruelty? It's in some parts of the world, it's culture for like genital mutilation. It's culture for like men to be oppressive to their wives. You know, that's culture, and I'm sure you agree that that doesn't justify that. It's clearly immoral. Would you agree?
But the thing is also as well as like you can't. Hold on, let me get my words straight on this. It's hard to explain because like culture where I'm from, like wearing fur, wearing stuff like that, it tells you like, oh, he has money, you know, he has.
That's the same here.
You know, and you can't take that away because it's come up for so long. Like you can't change someone's view on that. Like with me, like I have a different view on it, obviously, but like.
So what changed your view on it?
My view is like just honestly that.
I think I get where you're coming from. You feel like to make such an obvious change in your life, it would offend like really strong family values, and you would be appearing like an outcast. I suppose you know what that comes down to is like, because you know you can't really hold it against people who just don't know. You know, no one chooses to be ignorant, but when you know, I feel like you're sort of morally obligated to do something about it. Otherwise, you're like knowingly complicit in like gross injustice. And you know, veganism is like catching on in a major way all around the world. Like cultures and traditions change over time. You know, in America, it used to be cultural, socially normal for white people to have black people as slaves. And at the time, people who spoke out against that, which there were many of, they would have been up against that very real resistance that you're talking about, where it's like, oh, but I couldn't just like set my slaves free because like my family would disown me. And you know, what's the right thing to do? And who's the real victim? You being like potentially ostracized, or the animals having their throat slit for culture? Like, you know.
But like you can't be mad at like younger kids for that too. It's because like
I'm totally not. It's not their fault.
Yeah, it's like the way they're brought up, and like me living my own life, 21, away from my family, it's got me like different ideas, different views. You know, living different cultures. Like coming from America to here, my mom's Mexican and my dad's Salvadorian, so our culture is very into like the meats, the chickens. You know,
food is a really big part of family life.
Exactly. So like, you know, for Christmas, for example, we have beef, chicken, like whatever you want. Like
that was my way of life for years, and I seen documentaries and talking like 2-hour long feature length productions from the farm to the plate of what animals go through. Excuse me, and I think it's one thing to talk about it in words and to try and convey their suffering, but it's another thing to actually immerse yourself in it and see how that makes you feel in your heart, and like what that provokes in your mentality. You feel right or wrong about that, and after you go through an experience like that, for me, I just felt motivated. Once I knew, I felt obligated to no longer be a part of that. Like, what if it was what if, say, because you travel, sorry, you travel. So say you traveled to China. I don't know if they do this in Mexico, but in China they eat dogs. So what if you were staying with a family in China and they were eating dogs? And I don't know what your morality is around dogs. For me, that's like I can't think of anything much worse than that. So if they were like serving you some Labrador steaks, would you cave under the peer pressure and eat it, or would you say, you know what, that doesn't sit right with me and I can't bring myself to do that?
I couldn't eat that. Like, honestly, I couldn't do that. Like, see, because we have restrictions to what we can eat. You know, every religion has their restrictions. Like, they can't eat cow, or they can't eat pig, or they can't eat this. You know, like with us, it's like dog is like that's man's best friend. Like, you can't be doing that. Like, that's like. It's a bond that you can't break. Like, why would you ever think about eating a dog? It's like,
and some cultures do, but the way I see it, like when we're saying, like, it's true, that's like a well-known motto, a dog is a man's best friend, but that is us like giving a dog special privileges because of something that we get of benefit from the dog. So because like we value our emotional relationship or a bond with that animal, therefore their life is like worth more than a cow, a chicken, a pig, when from the dog's perspective and all the animals that are farmed typically, they all have the same capacity to suffer, they all have the same preference to avoid pain and suffering, and they all have equal right to be alive. So I feel like it's sort of culturally and socially we have been biased to spur some animals their lives, and even I'm sure you've heard people say like their dog is like a member of their family. Like, we hold them in such high regard, but yet we will totally like stick a knife and a fork into the cut up corpse of a cow who had a family, who you know had you know what I mean, who has emotions and who has a preference to avoid suffering. I just feel like when you think about it, like, it doesn't make sense consistently, like this sort of splintered morality. Some lives matter, some don't. You know. So yeah, I mean, you would readily reject a plate of Labrador steaks because of that sort of social conditioning that we're taught to value dogs' lives more. But thinking outside of the box, I mean, do you agree that in actuality, like, all animals, like they have just as much right to life, and there's no real some are more valuable than others?
well, like, you've obviously heard of halal meat?
Of what, sorry?
Halal meat,
Halal? Yeah.
and you know what they do? They pray for basically the cow or the chicken, and then they cut the throat. You see, I think personally, like, I can't say what's wrong. I can't say what's right. I can't tell someone to change their mindset on something, because like we're all different. We're all different.
So this was something I didn't actually elaborate on during the interview, but he was talking about halal, and then he said that he can't say what's wrong, he can't say what's right. Halal, I would say, is arguably more cruel, because it's just a straight knife in the throat, no stun. I think stun, you know, people try to say it's like a more merciful, but you're still penetrating someone, you're still smashing someone's skull in. You know, you can't really say whether or not that actually stuns them, and regardless if it does, it's still wrong to take someone's life when there's no morally justifiable reason, or there's no need. But he says we're all different. Yeah, we do have differences, but our differences are superficial, and we're all the same in the ways that matter. You know, these animals that we kill, just like us, we are the same in that we value our lives. We're the same in that we have families. We're the same in that we feel pain. We're the same in that we have a preference to avoid suffering and to be free and to be happy and to be comfortable. You know, the ways that we are the same far outweigh and are far deeper than the ways that we are different. And I'd just like to add that in here, as I didn't do so during this interview. And I'd just like to add that praying for someone before you slice their throat open does nothing for them. It means nothing to that victim, and is only something that you do to make your soul and your conscience feel better, so you don't feel that guilty about it. It doesn't make it okay.
Like, I know it was different for you because you were around those people that brought those ideas to you.
It was actually online. I just came across. I seen a picture, and I'd never seen an image like this before, and it was obvious from the picture that it was a slaughterhouse. It was animals having their throats sliced open, and there was a link at the bottom, which brought me to a speech, like an hour-long talk, about how we have been socially brainwashed into eating these living, breathing, feeling animals. When there's no need, like these corporations don't actually care about people, they just care about profit, and so they keep these animals in horrible conditions. But even if they looked after the animals really well, it's still an injustice because we have no need for animal flesh. Like I'm nearly 3 years vegan, and like I'm not deficient in any you know what I mean, I'm healthier than I've ever been. It all comes from plants. The animals that we eat to get their protein, they eat plants, so we just go straight to the source, and let the animals live their lives. So like I mean, have you ever seen slaughterhouse footage? Have you ever seen an animal being held down and pretty much yeah, and like how did that make you feel?
I feel bad, but you can't change. Okay, you can change, but it's a hard cycle to change. Like there's so many people that are high up there that won't allow you to change it, and it's like
that's so true. And like I fully agree with you. Like I can only make changes in my life, and me coming out here today is one change that I've made. Me being vegan is another, and me having this conversation with you, like you can change yourself. We can't change the whole world, but we can lead by example. And veganism in its purest form is just having respect for others. There's human exploitation involved as well, like slaughterhouse workers, and that's a job no one wants to do. But because we desire like to eat dead animal corpses, someone has to fill that role, and it's often like, you know what I mean, like poor people who in desperation just do it because they have a family to feed. But if we stop paying for it, it's supply and demand. So we stop paying for it. Social consciousness becomes more aware and accepting of veganism. More and more vegan products are released. The demand for animal products lessens, so they breed less animals into existence, and it phases out gradually. Where it's never going to be like an overnight thing.
Because you can't say that like 5 years ago there was a ton of vegan food that was coming out. Like now, like you go to like a store, everything's vegan. I can go into that bath soap. The bath soap is vegan. Like it's
so true. And I mean, I feel like in the future, like. Generations will say like, I can't believe that we used to eat animals when we didn't have to. So if you know that it's like a somewhat of an inevitability that we're going to come to this, a vegan world, if we still have a planet to live on, because animal agriculture is so devastating to the environment. They're cutting down rainforests for hamburgers. We live in a world where people are dying of thirst and so much water is used. Yeah. It comes back to just not knowing. But you can only do that which you know about. And I mean, what would stop you being vegan? What do you think?
honestly, the discipline. Vegans have this discipline. My friend's vegan, and he tells me like all the time, like, oh, you should do this, you should do that, become vegan, eat this food, eat this, and I've tried it, but it's hard for me because of the discipline. I'm so used to, and I'm so accustomed to eating meat. Like
I get you. Yeah, I mean, I suppose when I seen it, I was motivated by pure ethics. I just knew it was wrong, and although I thought I'm gonna have to change everything I eat and stuff, I was still willing to be committed to that because no matter what, I just didn't want to pay for that suffering. But the thing is, it seems that way for you because you aren't vegan, but see, when you become vegan, it's like 2-3 weeks max, and you have all your habits down, you know where to shop, you know your recipes, and after that, just like the way you eat now, it's just, to you it becomes normal. You don't really have to think about it much. You know what you want to eat, you know who you don't want to eat, because animals are individuals, they are someone. People say, I decide what I eat, but it is a someone, you know what I mean? But yeah, for me, man, like, I mean, what's a little bit of difficulty to develop? So in life, I mean, if you're not growing, you're dying. You know what I mean? If you're not constantly trying to self-develop and like expand your mind, like you're static and you become stagnant and dysfunction and all sorts of like health problems start to happen. So for me, I see it as like consciously evolving to that next level. Like we have an innate moral compass of feeling inside of what's right and what's wrong, and I don't know anyone that. Like, I've been outside a slaughterhouse, I've seen animals come in on the trucks and looked into their eyes, like knowing that they're going to be sliced open like ear to ear in a matter of minutes. And I don't think there's anyone out there that can say like that's totally fine and that's like, you know, that's okay. But there's so much money put into keeping us ignorant. Like, there's a advertisement here. I think it's just out of shot, but it's of like chicken flesh and like just standard animal advertising food products. But you know, it's forced upon us everywhere, and we think that we're like making these food choices, but the choices are making us like that. You know, we got our food eating habits from what our parents said, and you know what I mean. So we're not really consciously deciding. We're just operating on an airplane mode. Like, oh, I always eat this. I know that I like XYZ. You know, there's an abundance of things out there to eat, and I can truly feel that I'm consciously living with my food choices when I'm deciding what to eat. Like, I'm nourishing my body with whole plant food, you know. And like, you look at like vegan foods, even like fruits and vegetables and stuff. There's something just very satisfying about eating something that comes from the earth. You know, my food grows. It isn't born. You know, there's no one being hurt for it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I feel like it's an inevitability in the future that people will, you know, once enough people catch on and live by example, you sort of have that ripple effect in society. Oh yeah, that guy's vegan, he's my friend. That guy's vegan. Like, maybe there's a bit more to this. And I don't know if any of your vegan friends come from like a similar background to you, like strong family values around meat eating. But like, if someone can do it, then it can be done. And you never know, man. I'm sure your family loves you a lot, and when someone loves you, they respect you. Yeah. No matter what. Like, I really don't think you'll be ostracized or like executed for choosing a compassionate way of life where no one's dead body is on your plate. So yeah, I mean, you really think that you wouldn't do it based on all that?
You know, I've tried it and I'll try it again. I actually live with the vegan right now at this very moment, and like, I have cut back a lot on like pork stuff because pigs are very dirty and they come with a lot of diseases and bacteria that when you eat it you can get sick, you know. So
I just like to expound on that. That's a common myth that pigs are really dirty animals, but they're only dirty because they're kept in confined spaces where they're not allowed to exhibit their natural behaviors. Like, I don't know if you heard this saying, but there's a saying like, happy as a pig in shit. Pigs aren't happy to be in their own feces. Pigs are quite happy when they're in mud, which you can see why it's obviously misconstrued as shit because of color and whatever else. But pigs are very clean animals if given enough space to express themselves. Yeah, and I know there's that sort of perception in certain religions that pigs are like unclean animals, but at the end of the day, if there is a creator in this world who created animals, I don't think he would create dirty animals, you know. If anything, humans are the dirtiest animals. We oppress like billions and billions of innocent creatures every year for taste satisfaction when we just don't have to. We destroy this only planet that we have in the name of taste satisfaction. And we you know, people like to think that we're like natural meat eaters or animal products are good for our health, but like cancer and heart disease and strokes are very prevalent in the modern world. And another thing that's really prevalent is the diet that people eat, which is animal products. So those top killer diseases are inextricably linked to eating animal products. Unlike actual carnivores like lions who don't get cancers and heart disease when they eat meat, we do, you know. So but that talk that I checked out. I can give you a card with some information, some more stuff on it. He talks about like the human body and how we're actually a lot more like herbivores than omnivores. Like you could argue that we are omnivores. Some really misinformed people will say that we're carnivores. But what I love about being labelled an omnivore is the definition of it is that you can, not that you must, that you can subsist on animal products or plants. So if vegans are living proof that you actually can subsist on plants alone, then why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? Do my hands look like they're designed to chase down gazelles, or do they look like they were designed to pick fruit and vegetables off trees in the ground? You know, there's so many physiological things, but ultimately it comes back around to how can you morally justify taking someone's life when they have done nothing wrong to deserve that, when you don't have to do that? What do you think?
It's just a choice. It's everybody's choice, man. Like I can't, I'll try it. And I'm honest, like I'll try it.
I respect that. Yeah.
I respect like you like speaking up your mind and telling me these ideas and these actual facts. Like I think it's pretty cool. So
awesome. I've actually got a resource. It's on the card. It's called challenge22.com, and it's a free 22-day vegan challenge on Facebook Messenger. You get a dietitian, a mentor, and someone to help you like shop around and get vegan products. Yeah, because it's like the science says 21 days to form a habit. So if you can do it 22 days consistently, like it's pretty much a habit. I did it. I didn't use Challenge 22. I don't think it was a thing then. I just did it because I felt in my heart it was really wrong. We say that we love animals, and when we see animal cruelty, it hurts us in our hearts, but we will look the other way and pay for it to happen. It's an animal holocaust. It's billions and billions and billions of animals every year, and it's so unnecessary. And most survivors of the Holocaust are actually vegan because they have seen what happens to animals, and they have made that comparison because they say those people were treated like animals. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'll give you a card and you can check it out. And like you said, that's all we can do. We can just set an example in our own lives, make more conscious choices, and be the change that we wish to see in the world. Man, it's been a good interview. Thank you so much. Cheers.